What did I come in here for? Now let's think. But yes, of course, it's got something to do with recording a podcast. Are you struggling with brain fog too? It feels like a heavy cloud behind the eyes, doesn't it? It's that fuzzy feeling where the rest of the world is moving at 5G speed, but you feel like your brain's just up on a dial-up. And most people call it brain fog. Neuroscientists call it nervous system exhaustion. Today we're unplugging the noise and giving you some science-based ways to find your mental clarity again. Discover these steps that actually work in 2026. These are at-home therapies that you can use, and they'll help to restore your mental sharpness. Welcome to today's Peace Unplugged episode. I'm going to talk about something that affects millions of us worldwide. That is brain fog. But if you're dealing it like me with post-COVID symptoms, or perhaps hormonal changes or chronic stress, this episode of Peace Unplugged will give you the latest science-based solutions to reclaim. These are all things that I've researched as usual. Give you the chance to get your mental clarity back. So here's the first part, the long COVID brain fog breakthrough. For quite a few years now, brain fog has been dismissed as a vague complaint by doctors, something they couldn't measure effectively and therefore not treat effectively. Patients would describe it's like thinking through cotton wool, but the medical imaging they tried to investigate simply showed there was nothing wrong. This leaves sufferers feeling like they've been gaslit because they get told that their symptoms are just in their head. And this is why those that suffer continue to struggle with this debilitating mental impairment, which affects our work, our relationships, and simply our daily functioning. And I know I've done this myself. We tend to dismiss it with a few self-depreciating jokes. I must have early onset what's it? The truth is far more concerning. This brain fog got worse for me after I had COVID infection about 5 years ago, just at the end of 2020. The result of that was one of the reasons why I decided to take early retirement. You see, the work I was doing was just getting far too stressful. Okay, here comes the research bit. Researchers in Japan recently made a groundbreaking discovery using advanced PET brain imaging that finally validates what patients have been experiencing. The study revealed that brain fog isn't psychological, it's biological. Scientists discovered widespread increases in AMPA receptor density linked to cognitive impairment and inflammation throughout the brain. This means things like we can't remember where we put our keys, or we struggle to focus in meetings. There is actual measurable brain dysfunction that's happening, and it's not weakness or laziness. The research shows that close to half of long COVID patients reported having poor memory or brain fog, making this one of the most debilitating aspects of the condition. What's particularly concerning is that the research shows that the immune system could cause inflammation in our brain that temporarily blocks or makes it more difficult for our body to process information. The discovery opened the doors to some targeted treatments. Instead of just the vague lifestyle advice, doctors can now design interventions that address the specifics of the symptoms. Findings confirm that brain fog is immeasurable and a biological condition. For those of us that have been suffering in silence, this validation can make a big difference for us. You're not imagining it, there is scientific proof. Now let's move on to the next part, the medications combination that's changing our lives. Well, many people suffering from brain fog have tried various different supplements and lifestyle changes, which resulted in some frankly minimal improvement. It appears that there is a medication combination that was originally used to treat brain injury. The challenge is apparently that most doctors don't know about this, resulting in lots of us still suffering unnecessarily. So again, here's a little bit of background. Yale medicine behavioural neurologist Dr. Armin Fesharakizadeh discovered that the medications could help long COVID patients with brain fog when he realised that one of his long COVID patients was having cognitive symptoms similar to those of patients with traumatic brain injury who were suffering from post-concussive syndrome. He began treating patients with a combination of N-acetylcysteine, that's known as NAC, and something known as guanfacine. The combined therapy was successful in relieving brain fog for a small cohort of patients. What apparently makes this particularly accessible is that patients can ask their doctors for a prescription for guanfacine, and NAC apparently is available over the counter. The approach apparently targets two different pathways. It modifies the pro-inflammatory pathway with NAC and treats the neurocognitive problems impacting executive functioning with guanfacine. This two-part approach looks at both the inflammation that's causing the brain damage as well as the cognitive deficits. Apparently, larger clinical trials are still needed. The initial results have been encouraging, and that at least allows us to discuss the issues with our doctor. Researchers hope that this can be helpful in other groups of patients. This is because long COVID is not the only post-viral syndrome to cause brain fog. Patients with conditions including post-Lyme disease and chronic fatigue syndrome can also experience brain issues that stop us in our tracks. So a combination of NAC, which is available over the counter, and guanfacine, which is by prescription, is showing some promise in relieving brain fog, particularly in post-viral conditions. Now, this next part is interesting. It's the light therapy revolution. Imagine treating your brain fog with light. That's not lasers or invasive procedures. It's gentle, targeted light therapy that you can use at home. Research shows that photobiomodulation will be one of the most effective treatments for helping your brain to think faster. Here's some more background. Pilot randomized double-blind sham-controlled trial provides the first controlled evidence of photobiomodulation's efficacy for post-COVID cognitive impairment, showing significant improvements in attention and composite cognitive scores in young adults under 45 years of age. The treatment apparently works by enhancing mitochondrial function and reducing neuroinflammation, essentially giving your brain cells the energy they need to function properly. What makes this particularly interesting is the convenience factor. Participants received 8 weeks of daily 20-minute treatment at home using the Violite Neuro RX Gamma device, targeting the default mode in the brain. 6 studies described non-invasive brain stimulation, and all showed improvement in helping to think faster and more effectively. Whilst this technology is still quite new as a treatment, and still needs quite a few more trials, the early results suggest this could be a mainstream treatment for the future, or at least certainly an option. The beauty of photobiomodulation is that it has a high safety rating. There's no drugs involved, there's no side effects, it's just targeted light therapy, and it helps the brain to heal itself. Home-based photobiomodulation, that's light therapy effectively, is showing significant promise for improving our attention. And apparently it's particularly useful for younger adults with post-COVID brain fog. Here's the next part, which is quite interesting. The oxygen therapy advantage. When our brain isn't getting enough oxygen or blood flow, our thinking function suffers. Apparently for decades, hyperbaric oxygen therapy has been used for wound healing and diving accidents, but new research reveals it may be one of the best effective treatments for brain fog. So, continuing with the background evidence, 3 studies described hyperbaric oxygen therapy, all of which showed improvements in tests that measure how your brain is actually handling tasks. This isn't just about feeling better subjectively. These studies showed actual measurable improvements in how blood flows to different parts of the brain when brain regions aren't getting adequate oxygen and nutrients. Cognitive processes slow down, creating that characteristic foggy feeling. This mechanism makes sense when you understand that the neuroinflammation driven by times when your body thinks it's under attack, known as cytokine storms, and microglial activation, comprises the brain-blood barrier, leading to brain shrinking, known as cortical thinning, and reduced connectivity in brain networks. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy helps restore proper blood flow and oxygenation to these damaged areas, supporting the brain's natural healing processes. While hyperbaric oxygen therapy requires access to specialized facilities and can be expensive, the results have been consistent enough that it's worth considering for people with severe persistent brain fog. The treatment typically involves multiple sessions in a pressurized chamber where we breathe pure oxygen. That's non-invasive brain stimulation, and hyperbaric oxygen therapy show promising results in the treatment of brain fog caused by long COVID. It's better blood flow and getting more oxygen to the brain. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy consistently improves cognitive function and brain blood flow, making it a viable option for severe brain fog cases. Moving on to the next section, the disappointing truth about popular treatments. There's millions of people desperate for brain fog solutions. There's been numerous treatments promising to restore brain cognitive function. A major 2025 clinical trial finally tested the most popular approaches to see which ones actually work, and the results surprised researchers and patients as well. In a 5-part randomized study published in JAMA Neurology, researchers report that 3 of the most promising rehabilitative approaches, that is computerized cognitive training, structured cognitive behavioral rehabilitation program, and at-home brain stimulation, failed to outperform simple online puzzles and games. This trial, spanning 22 clinical sites across the United States, enrolled 320 adults with cognitive symptoms persisting at least 12 weeks after COVID-19 infection. The results were all of the participants improved modestly over time. That's regardless of the treatment they received. But frustratingly, no specific intervention stood out above the rest. This included Brain HQ cognitive training, the PASC core rehabilitation program, and something called the transcranial direct current stimulation. All these treatments showed no advantage over simple puzzles. It doesn't mean the treatments are worthless. They all made some modest improvements, and that's partly because those treatments were structured. It stated that improvements tracked more closely with how recently someone has been infected than with the therapy they received, suggests that time and natural recovery may be the most important factors. The good news is you don't need extensive programs or specialised equipment. Simply engaging in some mental activities are just as beneficial. Brain fog research is still evolving, and let's face it, we need effective treatments. Popular brain training programs at home brain stimulation showed no advantages over simple online puzzles, suggesting that time and any form of cognitive engagement may be more important than specific interventions. Next, lifestyle foundations that actually matter. While searching for up-to-date treatments, many of us overlook our lifestyle. These can either perpetuate or resolve brain fog. They're not glamorous solutions. Science shows they're the most powerful interventions available. So a healthcare provider might first recommend some tips to boost the immune system. That might be like improving our sleep habits, getting a better night's rest, eating more healthy meals, getting 30 minutes of exercise each day, and simply just writing down information so we don't forget it. And the classic taking short breaks through the day to stop overworking our brain. New treatment options, including the use of calcium folinate combined with folate and flavonoids, show promise for shutting down brain inflammation and preventing long-term damage. But beyond supplements, basic strategies like proper hydration make a significant difference. Dehydration can cause brain fog, yet most of us don't drink enough water or fluids through the day. Here's the classic old caffeine argument. It's suggested that if we must insist on drinking drinks with caffeine, make sure we do so before 2 p.m. It's then suggested that switching to herbal teas, that way it will prevent the afternoon crash, and that will worsen brain fog. In terms of nutrition, include omega-3 fish, and that's suggested at least twice weekly, providing you don't have a nut allergy, with a handful of walnuts daily. Be sure you include greens in every meal. There's another effective stress management technique. It's called box breathing. That's breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and breathe out for 4 seconds, and just hold for final 4 seconds. Repeat this as needed to manage your stress. The chronic stress directly worsens brain inflammation. These approaches cost nothing. They've got no side effects, and they're easy to implement. Whilst they may not work on their own, they create the right conditions for the brain to heal. So that's sleep optimization, hydration, and managing caffeine if that's what you choose to use.